How do you keep the customer engagement? Is by building relationships. Always understand that you are the number one asset for any company and for yourself. Be empowered to have that conversation with your customers. Ask the questions that matters and bring the solutions that are going to help your customers achieve their goals. It's about having the right relationship at the right level. My job is to make sure that I talk to the CX level and says, what's the value that Cisco's actually bringing to your company? And guess what? To you personally. Because you're the one who's driving your company. How is that actually building that for you as well? And then you look at alliances. What is a company that is leading technology? In the past, we have alliances with Apple, with NVIDIA, with other companies that are building other things that complement what Cisco is doing so they can give a holistic solution to your customers.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Experts of Experience. I'm your host, Lauren Wood. Today, I am thrilled to have Danny Pozo with us. He is the Vice President of the U.S. commercial market at Cisco. So we are going to explore how he is leading transformative customer experience strategies, driving value through lifecycle management, and leveraging global talent to meet the evolving customer needs. Danny, so wonderful to have you on the show.
Lauren, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with you and share some of the experiences we had at Cisco and elsewhere. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to have this fun conversation.
Yeah, we're going to make it fun. I already in the little bit of conversation I've had with Danny, he is full of life. So we're in for a good one.
We'll find something to laugh about. I can guarantee you.
Guaranteed. So Danny, you have been at Cisco per your LinkedIn for 24 years, and you began your career at Cisco in sales and then transitioned to customer experience, which I love a sales to CX transition personally. I'd love to kick it off by asking you, what do you believe about the customer experience space that few people would agree with you on?
So, I think, thank you so much for kind of putting my age out there. So,
sorry about that.
25 years in Cisco, I like to say that I started really early, so it doesn't show how old I really am. But in all seriousness, I think that it's an evolution, right? It's like when we started building this technology in many years ago, it's about what the customer needed from a solution perspective and how can we actually bring that solution to the customer. As you evolve into that, what you want to make sure is that the customer is getting what they need to make sure that the business outcomes are realized. It's about value realization. So I've been in Cisco, as you said, 25 years, and about 18 of those years have been in sales. So it was about how do I actually make sure that I position the right solution for our customers? And then I go to my next customer and say, how do I position the right solution for my customer? And then I go to the next one, right? In the case of CX, it's a different approach. It's a more consultative approach where you say, okay, what can I do to make sure the customers is realizing the full value of their investment? How can I help our customers understand that they're really building a model for their business based on our technology? And it's just that process that makes it really exciting, because I always say in sales, you build and you win a transaction. Customer experience, you win a customer.
And it's all about that long-term relationship that you're developing over time. And as you said, value is key to that. But we also need to understand what is it that our customers actually value so that we can deliver it to them. And I think Cisco, the little bit I know, just because Cisco is such a broad and deep company in terms of what you offer, I'd love to just take a moment to understand a little bit about your team. Who is your team made up of, and what is their core goal for your customers?
So it's an interesting thing about how Cisco built our customer experience blueprint. When you talk about customer experience in general, you talk about adoption, right? It's about software adoption and realization and utilization of those licenses or software that the customer purchased. Because we're a hardware company mainly, and we are transforming into more of a software recurring business company. What we did in customer experience is we put a number of teams together to make sure that we look at the life cycle throughout. So the first team that I have, it's a business development organization. It's more of a consultative approach. So when you have a new customer, it's like, okay, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? So I have a team that is dedicated to listen to our customers to see what is the problem they're trying to solve and how is our technology matching to that problem they're solving, right? So once we get that blueprint, which is a long process to understand that, what we do have is have an engineering organization that says, okay, so how do we make sure that what you have, we're going to make it work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Implementation, typical advanced services, implementation, optimization of infrastructure, putting everything together so it works. And then we start building our adoption model, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we have 3 layers in our teams. One of them is more of a high customers, big customers that we have, and we have experience with executives that are dedicated to the specific customers, where they walk them throughout, where they are the face of Cisco after the purchase. But then, as you know, we have just in US commercial, we have about 25,000 customers. So we look at programs and people that are dedicated to programs so we can go to many customers with the same approach and processes.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing is that, the last thing, but not less important than any, is how do we work with our partners and the people that work with us so they can build similar practices. They can take that process to the rest of our customers. So we have 4 teams that are dedicated just to one mission. It's making sure that the customer falls in love with Cisco.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And I've heard you speak about your life cycle model for customer experience. Obviously, when you're bringing customers on board or you're selling a Cisco service to a customer, you're expecting to be with them for a long time. This is a system that is going to be integrated into their work deeply. And you need to really be thinking about not only what does sales and onboarding look like, but really what is this going to look like for many years to come? And so I'd love to understand a little bit about your approach to customer lifecycle management, and then I have a whole bunch of questions about what it actually looks like.
Yeah. So if you look at what we call in the past, what we call the racetrack, which right now we're migrating to a different model. But if you look, I like to use just a symbol of the racetrack because it's infinite, right? It just continues, it never ends. So, and that's how we have to make sure that we look at our customers, because it's a relationship, as you said.
Yeah.
Our relationship, like anything in the world, right? It's just like people. We have good days, we have some days that are not good. Our main purpose is customer experience is to be there in the days that are not good, to make sure that our customers understand the commitment that we have with them, for them. So when you talk about a long journey, you want to make sure that you're not building leading edge technology, but you're building leading edge technology that our customers are able to use in different segments, right? So there's all kinds of customers. We have very sophisticated customers that are probably very sophisticated in the technology they're using, but we also have very small customers that are looking at us to guide them and make sure that they follow some of the use cases that we have built. So when you actually listen more than talking is when you have that able understanding to say, hey, how can I bring those solutions? How can I make sure that within the life cycle, I'm helping my customer use at the right place and the right moment for them to make sure that they get in that investment?
And I would assume proactivity is a piece of this, getting ahead of those bad days as much as possible.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, I tell you what, the world is changing so much, right? And the new buzzword is AI, right?
Yeah, of course, of
AI,
course.
artificial intelligence, and preemptive and proactive. Well, nothing happens the right way if you don't have the right insight and data in front of you to make sure that you're getting in front of the problems. And now that we have these tools in AI that are able to reach the further aspect, you get more data, you get more use cases, maybe use cases that are sitting somewhere else in the world and nobody was able to look at it before, but now you have access to those and you can actually see if this happens, what's the behavior is going to happen in the future. You can actually correct that ahead of time. That's why AI is so important, right? There's just so much to talk about that. I wouldn't even dare to talk about it because it's just so much that we can say, how can we get in front of the problems based on behaviors that happened in the past and get that data in a matter of seconds and be able to preempt those problems. The other thing is automation, right? The more that you automate and you get templates to make sure that you use the same use cases, the less issues that you may have because those have been proven to be successful already. So those are the 2 things right now that are changing as far as being predictive rather than reactive, is making sure that you use the tools based on the AI infrastructure that you can build and also the automation that is just seamless that continues to happen. And you'll be able to correct that quickly, because when you automate something, if you find a problem, you can fix it in one place and automatically goes into the rest of the infrastructure to make sure that it fixes the next one.
Completely. I mean, the data conversation when it comes to AI is, when I think about a company like Cisco, it must be mind-boggling, because in order for AI to work correctly, it all depends on the data that we give it. And I'm curious to know, have you had to do any data overhauls in terms, like, to make sure that you had the right data to be able to predict, to be able to automate? What was that process like? Or did you have all the right data in all the right places?
Well, I mean, I couldn't say for myself, because I wish I was one of those guys that actually tied the data, and I was obviously
Of course.
be smart enough to actually look at that. But what I can tell you is that, the data that goes in is as good as the data that comes out, right? You got to make sure that you have the right data in to make sure we get the right solutions. In Cisco, what we do is to make sure that we're consistently looking at our data mining to make sure that the data that we have is the one that's going to be able to solve our problems. So our TAC, for example, right? So we have TAC and a number of issues that we have been able to fix throughout so many years. Everything has been obviously put into a repository where we can actually go back and say, how do we did that? How did we do that? And how can we do it better? And we're constantly looking at that and making sure that it's as healthy as possible to make sure that now we can automate solve some of these problems by automation. But yes, I mean, we have teams in Cisco that are dedicated to make sure that we have the right data in place, and that we make sure that our customers get the right decision based on the insights that we have.
I want to talk a little bit about customer engagement, just switching gears a little bit, although it's probably quite connected. I just hear this from so many leaders, like, how do we keep our customers engaged over time? How do we engage our customers in new things that we're rolling out that we think might be valuable for them, but I don't know, we're not the hot new thing anymore because we've been working with this customer for a long time. So how do we get in front of them? And how do you approach customer engagement and get your team to approach it effectively as well?
Well, if you look at any podcast or YouTube or read books and everything, we just talk about data and insights for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But they can never take the place of a person. In my mind, I think that how do you interpret that? How do you actually translate the value that has into your customer value? It's about having the conversation. It's about making sure the customer knows that there's somebody that cares at the other end. It's just not a machine, which is extremely effective and efficient, but it's also a person that's able to understand what are your KPIs, right? Because it's not only about the KPIs that we have internally as a company, it's about the KPIs that the customer is having to make sure that they're successful. And until today, as far as I know, maybe things have changed since like last hour, our AI doesn't understand all our customers' KPIs. It's about the persons having that conversation. How do you translate into that? So how do you keep the customer engagement? Is by building relationships, by understanding that there's a trust factor there, that you can actually have that with your customers. It's about having the right relationship at the right level, right? I mean, that's my job. My job is to make sure that I talk to the CX level and says, what's the value that Cisco's actually bringing to your company? And guess what? To you personally, right? Because you're the one who's driving your company. How is that actually building that for you as well? So it's a combination of those two things. And then you look at alliances, right? So if Cisco is not the one that is actually leading that technology, what is that company that is leading technology? In the past, we have announced alliances with Apple, with NVIDIA, with other companies that are building other things that complement what Cisco is doing so they can give a holistic solution to their customers.
This relationship piece is just so incredibly important. And having been in customer facing roles my entire career, I know that deeply. And I feel like as we're talking about AI more and more, I've been to quite a few conferences lately, and it's the topic of conversation is AI, AI, AI. And that is great. And that is awesome. And there are efficiencies to be had and predictive actions that we can take. Great. But at the end of the day, if we don't have a relationship with our customers, you don't have business to do with your customers.
Absolutely.
It's just so essential. And I'm curious, how have you, with your client-facing teams, how do you instill that mentality of relationship development? What types of skills do you help your team learn? Or how do you make sure that it's not just you who's holding the relationship? Because that's a lot of relationships. There's too many relationships. How do you make sure that your team is also able to hold those relationships in an expert fashion?
I tell you, first of all, I'm an extremely lucky person to have the team that I have. I mean, it's just like incredible, the people the level of professionals that work for our organization. I always say that Cisco's asset, it's not so much their hardware, their software, their services, because they are great. I mean, I work for the company and I think they're wonderful, but it's the people, this how smart they are. It's the one that actually building that value to customers. But one thing that I think that's never going to be replaced by AI or by any automation, it's EQ. Is the emotional intelligence that we can actually bring to our customers. And I read that the other day. It says everything can happen, but EQ will never be replaced by anything. Because we're still are beings of feelings. Why are customers loyal to you? It's because how you make them feel, right? They'll always remember when you're there and they're in the place where you need them. They're not going to remember usually when you're making a sale, because there's always negotiations that go back and forth. But they will remember the moment that their infrastructure is not working properly and you're there at the moment that they needed you and you'll be able to resolve the problems. And you call them back and you said, are you okay? How you make people feel is what actually matters at the end of the day. So I think the tools are an extremely great complement to our EQ ability. So what I'll tell you to your question is, what do you tell your team is always understand that you are the number one asset for any company and for yourself. Be empowered to have that conversation with your customers. Ask the questions that matters and bring the solutions that are going to help your customers achieve their goals.
Completely. AI, in my opinion, and I mean, AI is changing a lot. It has blown my mind in how quickly it has advanced. But when it comes to listening, what is underneath someone's words, like listening to the nonverbal cues, listening to someone's tone of voice and pairing that with the context that you have about them historically over time, that is something that I just don't think that AI will ever be able to solve for. And I don't think we need it to either. If there's one thing that I think, for me, at least the thing I hope that AI will enable us to do is take us off of our computers so we can spend more time actually listening and understanding one another, which, based on what you're saying, that's really the superpower that we need to cultivate in order to build our businesses.
Actually, I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and we were having conversations like, are young people now going to be less smart because of AI is going to do everything for them and it's everything in their hand, in the palm of their hands? And my answer to us, I think, is the contrary, right? I think they're going to make us a lot smarter. Because you're still a human being. You still have a brain that's going to be able to absorb content, right? The more content that you absorb, the more you know. It's just going to be micro learnings that you're going to be able to have in the period of time that you're using it. I mean, do you need to know everything about algebra? Not you, because you're a lot younger than I am, but when I went to school, it's like I needed to know everything about that. Probably not. But I'm not going to be able to resolve a problem because I asked my phone a question, but that's going to be still stick in my mind. So maybe the next time I'll ask a different question. So to your point is, I think there are tools that are going to make us better, and it's going to resolve so many more complex issues because just the ability to get the data, put it into one place, transform it, and be able to build conclusions in such a fast way. It's just going to be mind-boggling. But nothing is going to replace the water cooler. Nothing is going to replace a nice coffee or a nice drink. And I tell you what, I'll be a little bit sentimental here. Nothing will replace a big hug.
Oh, completely. I totally agree. And even if it's an emotional hug, if not physical, but just like knowing that someone is there for you, that feeling, like you said, is the thing that goes the furthest. You are a business leader with vision. You've seen the future as an AI enterprise thriving with Salesforce's Agent Force. Getting there? It's a little fuzzier. Don't worry. Salesforce CTOs are here to work with you side by side and turn your Agentforce vision into a reality. We're talking expert guidance and implementation support from the best of the best. To learn more about Salesforce CTOs, visit sfdc.co/professional services. I want to talk a little bit about culture and team, which I think kind of pairs with everything that we're talking about here. You speak a lot. I've just, been creeping on your LinkedIn, and I can really tell that you care about the people that you work with. And I'd love to understand a little bit of your approach to how do you develop a strong culture and also a culture that is customer-centric?
Well, if you ask me, that's probably the number one thing that a leader has to do.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing more important than building a winning and inclusive culture in my mind. Right. That's where everything starts, especially when you work in a company that people have different jobs and different KPIs and different ways to be rewarded. The first thing you got to do is listen to people. I have a practice in my team that I try to meet everyone at least once a year, everyone in my organization, to have a 5 to 10 minute conversation.
How many people is that?
Well, about 200 plus, like something right now. So what I try to do is, and there's no agenda. I don't want to talk about, how are you doing in your job? I want to talk about you as an individual, as a person. What is that you're thinking about? How can I be a use for you? Because what happens is that when people have a title, immediately people start thinking that you're not reachable because of where you are. You can never forget where you come from, and you were sitting in those shoes at some point, right? So I think you build culture by communication. That's the first thing you got to do. And you as a leader have the responsibility to actually build that communication at all levels. The second thing I think you have to do is, how do you build a common mission, right? Because commonality brings belonging. You belong to something that is more special. So you bring a mission to say, we as a theater, and that's how we call it here at Cisco, we as a theater have a mission. And we got to be ambitious. We got to dream. So my dream and my challenge to my team when I took the role in U.S. commercial was, we are going to be the best theater in the world, right? Out of all the theaters in the world for Cisco, we're going to be the best ones. And there's absolutely no reason why we couldn't be the best theater in the world. And people are sort of belonging into something becomes special. Now, how do you actually manage that down to make sure that people do their specific job to do that? It's just by having those conversations. Another thing that I think we don't do enough as leaders is having conversations outside of the business, right? Most of the leaders in every single call is just about what is the business? What are the KPIs? How do we measure this? What are our success rate? What are the things that we got to do better? We have to sometimes talk about life. And I bring that into our teams. I said, we bring guests over and we talk about everything, mental health. We talk about, if it's the month of African American, how does an African American feel in a corporation like Cisco? How can an African American actually lead an organization and be one of the leaders? Or the month of Pride, or Hispanic. It just happens that I am Hispanic. So it's just having those conversations that are world conversations, right? So what that taught me is, people are starting having common grounds that has nothing to do with the business. And then that translates into productivity. So it's about the culture of becoming one team with one mission that makes you people with the opportunity to have one result.
Yeah. I think this goes back to the relationship conversation as well.
Yeah.
When you have relationships internally within your organization, people do better work.
Absolutely.
They're more excited to come to work every day. They are more engaged in the work that they're doing. They feel like they have community there, and they're actually more efficient as well. Like the studies show, if we have trust within an organization and between our clients, we're able to move faster because we don't have to do as many checks and balances and questions if this is the right thing or not. If we trust someone, we can take what they say at face value and move on instead of double check everything.
and talk about relationships. Last thing about this is, it's how do you as an organization be able to provide back to others, right? To people that are less fortunate than you are. And we have some of those chapters as well to make sure that we as a team come together, and that becomes fun, because every time you do something for something else, guess what follows? One or two things, or a nice lunch or a good happy hour.
Mm-hmm.
So every time you do something and then you go on and get together with your team, and then you become more of a friendly organization rather than just an organization that's actually building something. And it
Yeah.
works both ways. And it works really good in both ways.
Mm-hmm. Completely. What are some of your favorite ways to connect your teams, human to human?
I think I'll tell you one of the things I fail. Is that fair? Can I tell you one of the things I fail?
Of course. We love that.
Here we go. I try to start a reading club. Boy, that didn't go well.
No one's got time for that these days.
People want to have a good time. People want to have a really good laugh. So what we tried is just open to anybody. Just have like an hour once a month. They said, hey, come into an hour. Let's just have a conversation. Some people showed up. Some people didn't show up. It was not. And it's just about, building that external, when you're remote. Another thing that I do often is when I go into our offices, it's making sure that our team gets together. Food always brings people together. We had other things in our offices of, dance classes and things like that are fun. But we also, as I mentioned earlier, we have very serious conversations that actually bring people together, because you never know what others are going through, right? You never know what others, and just having that conversation that sometimes is difficult, even brings you closer. But I try to combine both of them, right? It's just like, I like to have a really good time. I always think that having a meeting without a laugh is not a good meeting.
I totally agree. Well, you're full of the laughs too. So and I also think that's such a great skill to have for any leader, for anyone, just like, how can we have conversations that we can also make lighthearted?
Yeah.
How can we bring the positivity even into difficult conversations? We never want to put lipstick on a pig and pretend that it's something that it's not, but it's supposed to be fun, this life thing at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So how can we make it that way?
And we always going to have that problem to resolve. And we all understand that there's a problem we need to resolve, because that's the reason we're here, right? The reason we're here is because an opportunity to resolve a problem. Solution technology is built because of that. Technology is built because there's a problem that we want to resolve, because we want to do A, create more revenue, or B, create more efficiencies. So that's always going to be there. As long as you do it in a way that you're excited about it, it makes your life a lot easier.
Oh, completely. And it makes people want to work with you more. It's just how it goes. So let's talk a little bit about value. I know we touched on this earlier, but as you're really, looking for those opportunities to provide value, tell us a little bit about your approach to do that with your clients, and then how you bring it back into the organization.
So to me, value, it's a very simple word, something that you actually understand that is going to do something for you, right? That's what value is, right? So if it's doing something for you that is going to benefit you in some way, you obviously going to see that as something that you want to continue doing. Having those conversations with our customers as migration and transition happens, as the digital transformation is always going to be there. Transformation is not about a day that starts and a day that it ends. It's a constant thing. It's a constant change that's going to happen. So your value is going to change as the transformation changes. So what you have to make sure is like, how do I listen to the customer's problem is? How do I bring that into the company to make sure the company understand how the market is actually reacting to the problems they're having? And how the company's building things to resolve those issues and create value. So now it's about speed, right? You want to be first. If you're in a company, any company, you want to be the first one to be there. You want to have the first opportunity to grab that market, whatever you want, whatever you're doing. So technology allows you to do that. So the faster you can actually bring those solutions, the more valuable you become. Or also you become valuable if you're actually making sure that you are cost efficient for the customer. That doesn't mean that you're the less expensive company. That just means that you're the company that allows your customer to be more efficient, that allows them to do other things. And the third thing is how you create a brand for your customers and yourself to make sure that you recognize in a very positive way and create that value that people are willing to spend more money to invest more in you because they know you're going to be there. So those are the three things that we always try to say. It's like, what is really value for our customers? How do you make sure we have a brand that we're very proud of, but they also build a brand that they'd be proud of working with our technology?
Yeah. And I think when it comes to value creation, like you said, this is kind of you had said something earlier that I wanted to come back to around what are the KPIs that your client cares about? And we know there's always one, which is money.
Yeah.
Are they getting the best bang for their buck? Right. We need to, in every single situation, that will always be something your customer cares about. So how can we speak to that and show them that and build trust with them so that they understand that, yes, we are going to give you the best option.
And I think that's one of the great things about CX and customer experience, because the journey allows you to be in all of those steps, right?
Yeah.
It's about the onboarding, it's about the implementation, the optimization, the adoption, utilization, and eventually the renewal of that platform, right? Or that software or that EA. If the customer is not renewing, it's because he didn't see value on when you sold them originally. Our biggest KPI is our renewal rate. Is how can we get that to the right place? Because that means we did the right thing. We built the right solution. We sold the right solution to our customers, and we'll be able to help them throughout. So that's one of the things that we measure very carefully, is to make sure that our renewal rate is as high as it can be. And yes, if they are renewing, guess what? They are making money or creating efficiencies with our software.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely. I wanted to talk a little bit more about KPIs. You said renewal is your core KPI, which I think is a great KPI because that is the ultimate proof that your customers found value in what it is that you're providing. What other KPIs are you tracking to make sure that your team is both providing a great customer experience as well as being efficient in doing so?
The first thing we got to measure even before renewals is NPS. It's a water score, right? It's how our customers' perception is with us as a company overall, not just as a service company, but also as a product company, as a software company, and everything else. So that's the first thing we always got to make sure. The second thing is customer satisfaction, right? And they're different, right? Because one of them is more, holistic. The other one more specific in some things. And those are the two that we really make sure that we'll look into. And like any company, we want to make sure that we continue to grow. We continue to make sure that bring the best solutions in place. We want to make sure that we react to things that we didn't build the way that our customers are looking. And I think Cisco very well. It's making sure that we pivot very quickly to make sure that the value is always there. So those are some of the KPIs we have. And, I'm not going to lie to you. We want to make sure that we have a healthy business, right? We want to make sure that our business,
of course, the
investments are there from the company, and our business is always as healthy as it can be. So those are some of the things that we measure. Myself, I give myself some specific KPIs of having conversations with our customers at an executive level, to make sure that, as we talked earlier, we listen to them and we say, okay, are we doing the right thing? Are we going the right path? Is Cisco the company is going to help you achieve what you want to achieve? If the answer is yes, how do we do it better? If the answer is no, how are we going to be the ones that we can do it? So that's a KPI that I try to actually maintain on my own and my team as well.
Has efficiency been a big topic of conversation for you? I feel like as I speak to CX leaders, many people just with the economic climate of today, we're thinking about how do we make our teams more productive? How do we do more with less time? Is that something that you've been focused on?
I think in general, yes. I think general every company wants to be efficient, because having efficiency means that if you grow, you make more money, your margins are better, right? But I think every company is at a different stage. Some companies want to be more efficient because they're maybe a little more mature company that have a lot of stronger competition, right? Some companies are hyper growth that want to go faster to a different place. And what they want to do is how do you help them move in a different way? So it all depends on the customer you're having that conversation with. Every one of them wants to be efficient. Some of them because they need a little more than others. Some of them because they want to go faster. You always want to make sure that your solutions are the ones that are bringing that opportunity to them, to make sure that they concentrate on what their business is, right? Our goal is to simplify technology. Our goal is to make sure that the technology is simple enough that way the executives think of their business, not something that they have to do in the business that we manage. And we in the services side of the business in CX, we do have engineers, we have all type of professionals that are working with our customers to make sure that side of the house is given to either us or our partners, that way they concentrate on their business.
Tell me a little bit about your partner relationships. I can imagine that those are very key relationships in order for you to deliver on your customer promise.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I told you earlier, US commercial, we have over 20 plus thousand customers. 5,000 of them probably the ones that we actually look at between our customers, our partners, and ourselves. There's only so much we can grow. We cannot hire people to look at our customers. So we really depend on our partners to make sure that they are driving that solution with us. So if you tell me some of the relationships that I have to build the most is with our partners because we're able to scale our business.
Yeah.
Scalability is the most important piece for us in this theater. There are other things in Cisco that are more focused on top customers that are more custom made because they have the big, large service provider, big, large enterprises. In our case, in US commercial, we have to make sure that we have a very strong relationship with our partners and we'll be able to scale as much as we can.
Do you have any examples or stories of strategies you've put in place to deepen those partner relationships and make sure that the partners are delivering in the way that you expect them to?
Well, we have a whole partner organization that is dedicated to that, right? So we do have I have a small team that dedicates to partners, but we have Cisco has a very large partner organization that are obviously working with them, enabling them. Pretty much enabling the partners to understand where we are. How do we actually get the same tools that we have to get the data we have and build the same processes that we have in Cisco that will we have in the same conversation with our customers. Obviously our partners work with us because Cisco brings a whole mega portfolio, right? Like I think you mentioned earlier was, we're not a one portfolio, one item that we sell. Our portfolio is just so broad. And I think that our partners, some of them specialize in some specific, some of them have a holistic view of our portfolio. So it all depends on that. I think one of the great things orchestrating, how do we actually get the right partner to the right customer, the right partners to the right customers to make sure that the whole solution is provided to them. And we have a whole organization, partners organization in Cisco that is dedicated to that.
I can imagine it's very complex having so many different partners and so many different products that you offer.
Yeah. One, always.
Yeah, for sure. When you're using Salesforce to tackle your company's most important goals, failure is simply not an option. That's why their most highly skilled advisors, Salesforce CTOs, are available to help you succeed with expert guidance and implementation support at every step of the way. Learn more about Salesforce CTOs at sfdc.co/professional services. So I'd love to talk a little bit about the future.
Wow.
And get your thoughts on what is to come in customer experience. What do you expect are going to be some of the major trends or things that CX leaders are going to be facing in the months and years to come?
I think we always go back to the AI conversation, right? And we always go back because it's an unknown completely. And I think it's an unknown where we're going. It just can go so far from where we are today that actually can help us actually resolve some of the problems that we may have today. But we talked earlier, right? The future is always going to bring somebody that's building that relationship as well. I think that there are just so many new companies that we're going to see in the world that is actually bring different solutions to it. I was looking at some, and I'm not going to mention the name of them today because I didn't get paid to mention the name of it. But there's just so many devices that are coming in the future that are just mind blowing, right? That we just don't know about today that is actually going to help us in so many ways. Just the medical side of it, it's just incredible. So I think that you're going to find companies that are technology companies that are specialized in various things that are more specific, that are holistic today. Like the medical field, you're going to find partners that are dedicated to how do you actually match technology with the medical needs, right? Today, we may just have broad opportunities. We're talking about a data center. A data center is all dedicated. It could be dedicated to anything. Maybe later on, because of all of this AI data that we need, we have companies specific dedicated just to segments that we don't know about today. So I think the future is just, I wish I had a little ball that tells me exactly where we're going. But it's exciting to see that we're in the middle of a completely revolution, right? So, it's like You went from mainframes computers to laptops, to the iPhone, to the iWatch. And now we don't know where we're going because things are just exponentially to the next level.
Yeah. Are there any tools or products that you're really excited about that you've started using yourself?
Personally, me or as a company?
Yeah. Personally or as a company?
I don't know if personally, I mean, I think this collaboration aspect is great. I mean, we sell a lot of, we have collaboration solutions at Cisco that I think it helps us so much. Make sure that just right now we have a conversation. If we were to have a conversation in a WebEx space right now, there is an AI that is actually summarizing absolutely everything we're saying. So maybe you don't have to go back to the recording and listen to write notes. Everything's already summarized to you and actually given to you in a way that is easy to digest. You can go back and actually look at your meetings, and it's just so interesting. I have a board right here that I can actually write a whiteboard and have that conversation with somebody in China and it be completely seamless like we are today. So I think collaboration is very, very exciting, and it's becoming more. Before it was for people that were in technology space. Today it's going to be for everyone, right? Everyone is going to have that opportunity. So I think that's exciting. Those tools are very exciting.
And that really lets us build relationships. It gives us more attention to put onto one another instead of being in our computers. I mean, this is like old news now, but I'm still just like, oh, thank God of having AI transcripts. I can talk to someone and not have to think about how am I writing this down. It's like I can be present with someone. And I think there's just so much opportunity for us.
Yeah, I'm a terrible speller, so it helps me a lot.
I'm right there with you. So Danny, I have two last questions for you that we ask all of our guests. The first is, I'd love to hear about a recent experience that you had with a brand or a company or a product or a service that left you impressed. What was that experience?
All right, so I'm going to brag a little bit here, right? Is that okay?
Go for it, please.
All right. So for some reason, American Airlines made me a concierge key. And I have no idea why and how that happens, but I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to raise my hand and say you guys made a mistake.
Yeah, you did the right thing, American Airlines.
I'm staying quiet. I'm staying quiet until they find out. And I just think that, how they approach their premium customers in a way that they personalize it in a way that they know your name, they call you, and that can be translated into anything, right? You can go to the store and you can say to you, for some reason, you find that you're an important person to that customer. That makes you feel good, right? It makes you feel like you belong there. So I think that, I use that as one experience that I have, but you can take it anywhere, right? Starbucks puts your name in the cup. And it feels like, Danny, your coffee's ready. It's not like who has a latte, right? It feels personalized that, again, how do we actually take advantage of the technology without losing the personalization of humanity? So I think companies actually letting you have that opportunity to be that person, it's a great experience.
Yeah. Okay, so bringing up the Starbucks thing, I was thinking about this yesterday. I just have to comment on it. One, it is so genius to put the customer's name on the cup. It's like my barista knows my name.
Yeah.
Genius personalization experience that is analog, and it just, it will run the test of time.
Yeah.
But then there's also the barista putting the wrong name on the cup and how that gets posted on social media all the time. Like I see friends do it all the time where they're like, someone thinks my name is this, haha. Do you think that they do that on purpose so that people will post about it on Instagram?
I think they love messing up my name. I'll tell you that. I mean, that's why when you asked me the first time, how should I call you, Danilo, Danny? I said, let's go with Danny, because they always pronounce it in a different way. So guess what happens? They call me, if I put my real name in, they call me something else. And by the time I go get my coffee, it's cold. And I have to go again because I didn't hear the name Danilo. They call me Danilo, or something else. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I think some of them do it in the wrong, and just on purpose. Now, there's the other factor too, that sometimes we give another funny name so we can be called, out loud. I've seen kids
Yeah.
do it. So
Oh, totally.
really fun.
Completely. Well, I still think it's a genius concept. And hey, we're talking about it here today.
Yeah.
And so, Danny, my last question for you is, what is one piece of advice that every customer experience leader should hear?
I think it's listen. I think that the most important piece is just to make sure that the first thing you got to do is like sit with your customers and ask open questions. What is important to you? Why, in my case, is why is Cisco a company that you are doing business with? How can I make it better? Let the customer have that conversation and listen to you. The second thing is take risk. We are not doing brain surgery. Sometimes we take ourselves way too serious. We can actually do things, innovate, try new stuff, and be successful. And even if you are not successful, you can go back and try it again. So it's always have that opportunity to take some risk and have the ability to say, hey, you know what? I didn't do it right. We're human beings. We make mistakes. We don't always have to come with a perfect solution all the time. The 80-20 rule it's very important, right? Because if not, if you think you're perfect, and I come from an engineering company, we in our companies that are engineer, we want to get everything perfect before it actually happens. And sometimes what doesn't allow us to do is to be the first one of things that are innovative. So what I would tell anybody in CX is give it a shot, try, listen to your customer, and make sure you have those open conversations. And again, go back and take risk.
Listen, test, and learn. That's such great advice. Well, Danny, thank you so much for coming on the show. For those of you who are listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please follow us and like us and give us a comment and tell us what you think. It's been so wonderful to have you on, Danny, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon.
Lauren, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I had a really good time. Let's do it again sometime soon. I got used to it.
Sounds great.
Why not?